Recording.
Hi, my name is Kelty Goodwin. I am recording this lesson for our class SEC 345. And I had to get a little creative with this assignment since our schools in the state are not allowing people in for observation. So I decided to record myself here at home teaching my two kids, Cameron and Dane. Cameron is in 7th grade and Dane is in 6th grade. And this is for lesson 1 of my 3-day mini unit lesson plan. Before recording, we did the first part of our lesson already. We talked about background knowledge of the Vietnam War, and we watched a video introducing the Vietnam War. So now we're going to carry on with the next part of our lesson. So Cameron and Dane, what are your guys' initial thoughts about the Vietnam War after watching that video? Did you learn some new things? What are your thoughts?
It had quite a lot of deaths, actually.
A lot of deaths happened, didn't it?
It was pretty hectic.
It was hectic? What do you mean by that?
Like, a lot was going down.
There was a lot happening. What did you think about after watching that video? Do you guys now know where Vietnam is located? I know before that we watched the video, we were a little shaky on that, as where it was located. You guys feel a little better about that?
Yeah, right next to China.
Yep. And one of the questions we went over before was, what do you know about the Vietnam War? Why do you think the U.S. was involved, and when did this take place? And I know before the video, Cameron, you said you had understood some of that, or had some previous knowledge about that it was about communism in China. After watching the video, do you think you were right?
Yeah, I mean, it had some of it. I thought they had came over, but it turned out China kind of affected some of North Vietnam, which caused North Vietnam to think they could take over South Vietnam and just make it a whole communism country.
Yeah, was the U.S. worried about communism?
Yeah, they didn't want more communism to spread.
Yeah, that's actually one of our vocabulary words that we're going to go over as well, talking about that. What do you think the civilian people in the U.S. felt about the Vietnam War after watching the video?
Well, I guess no one was really winning because everybody was just losing people, and some of the battles were just not too well, and the people did not like it because either their children or their parents were in the war and were killed, and the Vietnam people were in a very crazy location at the time. Like, there wasn't enough rations to go around.
Yeah, that was something you learned from the video. Yeah, I think the civilians, they called the regular people in the U.S., they were not happy about the war. They didn't like sending off their family members to be soldiers and hearing that a lot of them were dying or being injured, and they didn't like what was going on, did they? Let's see here. So, were there any vocabulary words or words that you didn't understand after watching the video? What were some words that you remembered or wrote down from the video?
I half knew communism, but I wrote them down because I think it'd be good to go over them again.
What exactly communism and communist means?
Yeah. I don't have a very good description of them.
Let's get an exact definition for you.
Okay.
So communism is a political theory derived from Karl Marx, advocating class war and leading to a society in which all property is publicly owned and each person works and is paid according to their abilities and needs. What does that mean to you, Dane?
So it's kind of going off of government, and they're getting paid for. I guess, like, doing like that stuff.
Do you need a little simpler definition?
Yeah. I'm just.
This one says a system in which goods are owned in common and are available to all as needed. As needed. So what happens in communism is the government is in charge, they're in control, everybody works, and the government decides who needs what, where products go, what are being made, how things are distributed. They decide all of that. So the people work and the government decides where things go. Make sense?
Yep.
So communist is
a person who supports that, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting that. All right, what's another vocabulary word that you were unsure of?
Coup, I guess.
A coup d'etat?
Yeah.
How did that come up in the video? Where did you hear that? Did you hear it at the beginning of the video?
Halfway through the video.
Through the video. Let's see here. Okay. So coup d'etat is a French word, but it's used oftentimes for when there is a military uprising that overtakes the previous government. So when they were talking about coup d'etat in Vietnam, there were several times when a new group came in, they used military and force to overthrow the previous government and to become in charge. So when there's a coup, they shorten that. They come in and take over the previous government, overthrow them to become in charge. Any other words that you guys had before we get to the structured ones?
I put Cold War as well.
The Cold War?
Mm-hmm.
The Cold War was between Russia, or they were known as the USSR then, and the United States. USSR was pushing for communism, and the United States were capitalists, and both were trying to kind of prove that they were better in some ways, or that they were the right choice in some ways.
Didn't they have a race to space or something?
That was part of it. You're right. They both wanted to show they were the superior power. So here is a short definition for you. It is: the Cold War is a state of political hostility between countries characterized by threats, propaganda, and other measures short of open warfare. So it was a time of geopolitical tension between the Soviet Union or the USSR, Russia, and the United States. And it was called the Cold War because there were no actual battles like we saw in the Vietnam War, but it was kind of threats or propaganda showing that they were better and stuff like that. So there was a lot of tension between the two countries for a long time. Any other vocabulary you guys were curious about?
Yes, I was curious about guerrilla war tactics.
Guerrilla war tactics, that's a good one. Where did you see guerrilla war tactics in the video? What did they talk about?
And they were talking about like kind of fighting.
How they were fighting?
Yes.
Yeah, there was a lot of guerrilla warfare in the Vietnam War. They had a lot of jungles and mountainous terrain and stuff like that, where they didn't have big open areas where the two opposing armies would come and fight, right? So guerrilla warfare is an irregular type of warfare in which small groups of combatants or people that are fighting where they use different ways to ambush or sabotage or do little raids into the opposing military. So there was a lot of booby traps that were going on. They'd find ways to sneak into the camps and destroy things or stuff like that. It wasn't face-to-face battle. It was
Kind of like sabotaging.
sabotage, ambush, kind of stuff like that.
Kind of playing dirty.
Kind of plain dirty. Yep. All right, so let's jump into a couple of our other vocabulary that we have set for the Vietnam War. So the first one I have for you is Ho Chi Minh. Let's write that down on our papers. So Ho Chi Minh, H-O space C-H-I space M-I-N-H. Do you guys remember who Ho Chi Minh was?
Was he some sort of political leader
Yeah.
that had
he
published something for independence?
He wanted independence for Vietnam. He worked really hard for that to gain independence for the country from the French and then from other political forces that wanted to overtake it. So he was the leader of the northern Vietnam. And he was the leader of our next vocabulary word, which is Viet Minh.
Yeah, I had that.
Do you guys remember hearing that one in our video?
Mm-hmm.
Dane, what can you tell us about the Viet Minh?
So, I was thinking the Viet Minh was, like, for the Vietnam, like, American, like, the people.
They were not the American side. They
I
were
know, but, like, for the Vietnam, it was, like, the, civilians in that country.
sort of. So the Viet Minh were a communist group that was formed by Ho Chi Minh.
Okay.
They were the northern army, I guess you could say. They were the group of the northern people that wanted communism.
Okay.
They wanted to free Vietnam from the French and they wanted to unify Vietnam under communism. There was also the Viet Cong, is there another word for us?
I heard that one.
The Viet Cong were who, Cameron? Did you remember hearing about the Viet Cong? Can you tell us about them?
I think they were the South.
They were the group in South Vietnam that believed that communism was best for Vietnam's government and fought for communism against the South Vietnamese military. So even though they were in the South, they also wanted communism. Okay, did you guys remember hearing about, let's see here, the domino theory?
Yes.
What's the domino theory? What can you tell us?
It's kind of the domino effect where if one thing happens, it kind of triggers another effect and it keeps happening and happening.
Yeah. How could that be applied to the Vietnam War?
So I think it was after the North had survived some sort of a attack from another country that they got confident that they could take over the South, which caused that to turn into an effect that they tried to invade the South, which caused another effect, kind of domino into war.
You're almost there. So the domino theory was what the United States was really afraid of happening. They thought that if, China, who was communist at the time, if they were going to overtake Vietnam or any of the other countries surrounding them, that they would influence them to also turn communist. So they were thinking that, Vietnam's next to China, they're going to turn communist, and then maybe Thailand or Laos or one of those other ones that are next to them, maybe they will also turn communist. So they wanted to stop it right where it was, so there was no domino effect of more and more countries turning communist. Okay?
Okay.
All right, I think we are about reaching our 10-minute mark for our video. So we are going to go into the next part of our lesson off video where I'm going to have you guys create a graphic organizer for the rest of our vocabulary words and also include pictures with them. So we're going to sign off there. Thank you.